Hello beautiful people! I'm excited to be sharing with you the Anastasia Beverly Hills Rose Metal Eyeshadow Palette. I was very surprised when I was in my local Sephora store and I saw it on the shelf. In fact, I saw it before it was even launched on the Anastasia Beverly Hills website. But when I first saw it, I wasn't attracted by the color scheme. However, the more I looked at it, the more attracted I got to it, and the grungy tones of it reminded me of old Hollywood glamour. The Rose Metals palette delivers 12 all-new shades doused with ultra-glam nostalgia and iconoclast confidence. Rose Quartz, a metallic pink champagne with sparkling reflex. Royal, a sparkling burgundy with pink reflex. Haze, a metallic silver gold with multi-dimensional reflex. Rose Fire, a metallic fiery copper with multi-dimensional reflex. Sunrose, a matte peachy brown with sparkling reflex. Nova, a metallic golden bronze with multi-dimensional reflex. Heavenly, a metallic platinum gold with multi-dimensional reflex. Element, a metallic rosy brown. Ashes, a matte greyish taupe with sparkling reflex. Dune, a matte rustic brown which is also a pressed pigment. Nocturne, a metallic greystone with sparkling reflex. And Noble, a matte plum brown. The palette cost $55 or 88 Singapore dollars. It has a 12-month shelf life. It is PETA approved and is made in the USA. Comparing the Rose Metals palette to the original Sultry palette, the brand has increased each pan size to have nearly 200% more product. The Rose Metals palette shares the same pan and packaging size as the Nouveau palette, which was released about 3 months earlier. For today's video, I'll be trying on a cooler look here as well as a warmer look. So I'll show you in the video how I came up with these looks, and at the end of the try on, I'll come back and share with you my thoughts on this palette, the positives as well as the negatives of this palette. So let's start with the video. Okay, for the first look, I'm going to do a cooler look. So I'm going to start off with the shade here. What I noticed as I applied the matte eyeshadow, it was quite easy to blend out and I didn't have any problem with the patchiness. Rose Quartz is the least reflective metallic shade and it gives a pretty gentle shine suitable for day wear. The shade Royal helps to brighten up the eye look with a pop of color. Here I'm adding more intensity for the shade Royal, using the shade Ashes to give some definition to the lower lash line. Deepening it further with the shade Royal. Using Royal again to line my upper lash line. Then with Element to give more depth. To brighten up the look, I'm using the shade Heavenly on the center of my eyelid. For the second look, using warmer shades, I'm starting with Sunrose, which is a matte peachy brown with sparkling reflex. This blended out easily with a clean blending brush. Next, using Haze, a metallic silver gold with multi-dimensional reflex. It is easily one of my favorite shades in the palette. Nocturne is a metallic greystone with sparkling reflex, and it helps to quickly darken up the eye look. There was some fallout which was dusted off with a clean, fluffy brush. Using a small, firm blending brush to blend the edges. Using the shade Noble, a matte plum brown to line the lower lash line and soften the edges with a pencil brush. Next, using the shade Heavenly to brighten up my inner corner. Followed by Rose Fire, a metallic fiery copper with multi-dimensional reflex to add more warmth. Adding definition to my lower lash line with the shade Noble. adding more of the shade Rose Fire to increase the warmth. Here are the completed looks. A cooler day look and a warmer tone look. My thoughts at the end of the try-on is I do find this colour story really interesting. Just combining the shades, maybe a couple of shades together is enough to make up one look, and the mattes do blend out quite easily. Previously, from what I can remember, the mattes from Anastasia's brand is very pigmented. It's more difficult to blend out compared to this formula. So there is a change in the blendability of this formula. In fact, I do agree that I find it easier compared to the earlier formula. For the mattes in the palette, there are actually very fine glitter particles in the mattes itself. And some of the mattes has more glitter compared to the others, like Sun Rose for example. When we blend it onto our skin and when it catches the light, we can see the glitter particles. For the shimmers itself and the metallics, I must say I do find them very nice and smooth. Some of them are softer than the others, softer pressed than the others, like for example the shades Haze and Rose Fire and as well as Nova are softer pressed. And these shades, they're really nice, deep, rich and metallic. To compare the other metallics, for example, Royal, Element and Nocturne. Nocturne is also quite smooth. So these are the other three metallics. So from what we can see from the swatches, the first three with a softer feel to it has more shine compared to the next three swatches that I have. And to swatch this one here called Royal, this one has a firmer feel to it as well, but it's still soft. Not as soft as the first three. But another point that I like about this palette is this shade here called Heavenly. As we can see from this palette, it's quite a dark and grungy palette. So this shade, Heavenly, helped to brighten up. So maybe to put it on the middle of the eyelid to brighten up the look. For example, if I want to put it here, it does give more shine and brightens up the look as well. The more I see this palette, the more attracted I am to this color scheme. And I do like this shade here called Heavenly because by adding this shade in, it helps to brighten up the look of this palette itself. Just by putting it on the middle of the eyelid. For example, let me just add more of this Heavenly to my eyelid just to see. And it brightens up the look already. I do like the packaging of this. It's like a leather feel, and I must say it does look prettier in person compared to what the camera shows on screen itself. So those are the positives. As for the negatives of the palette, this shade called Dune is a pressed pigment and it's not intended for use around the immediate eye area. And the reason for that is because it could cause staining of the skin or irritation to sensitive skin. And as a person with sensitive skin myself, I would prefer not to have any pressed pigments in the eyeshadow palette. For the pressed pigment shade, although it has a drier feel, it is not as dry as the shade here, Noble itself. But nonetheless, the shades do blend out quite easily. Another negative point of this eyeshadow palette is the words are really small. Even with my reading glasses, it's so hard to read the words off the back of this. I do not have the Nouveau palette, the previous palette before this, and when I compared the swatches at Sephora itself, I realized I do prefer this latest Rose Metals palette. Personally, to me, it looks edgier and grungier. So that's what attracted me to this eyeshadow palette. What I noticed when I used this palette was that there was eyeshadow fallout. There's not much, but there is still some. So it might be a good idea to do the eye makeup first before we do the rest of our face makeup. Do feel free to let us know what you think about this palette, and if you're thinking of checking it out or perhaps waiting for the other makeup releases that's coming out for the holiday season. Do subscribe to join me for more videos, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Stay beautiful. Bye!